But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Get ready to take notes, because you're about to woke the f*** up.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Honeybadger Radio. My name is Brian and I'm here with Alison, and this is a kind of Rantzerker. I guess you could say it's a Rantzerker, but we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We've decided we're going to respond to podcasts because everybody else is responding to videos, and no one's looking at the podcast world, which has really sort of grown, especially in the land of feminist ideology, feminist doctrine. And so, this was Alison's idea, right? And
I take full credit or responsibility.
You should have responsibility.
I think the point is blame at this.
Yeah, I will say blame. So you sent me this podcast to go through. And essentially, I had to find the best bits. And
your tears are delicious.
I gotta say, this is like the cringiest. This is the most basic bitch podcast. So hopefully, we will make this fun for you guys, but just hang on to your butts. Now, to make this somewhat interesting so that I don't just want to hang myself, I've basically, I have this bingo card on the screen. So as these basic bitch feminists on this podcast make arguments that we've heard a fucking million times, we'll check off the boxes and see if we can get bingo. So let's start. Okay, so we get the free space, the safe space. That's a free one. So I'm just gonna make that mark right now.
We always get the safe space.
Always get the safe space. You gotta have that. So we're gonna start with that. And now I think we'll get into it. So this specific episode of this specific podcast, the podcast is called Woke the Fuck Up. And it is, I believe it's hosted by someone named Kyle Borges. Yep. I don't know what Kyle's pronouns are, and I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. So I'm just going to say they have this podcast set up, and this specific episode is entitled Privilege, Ignorance, and the War on Feminism.
Well, I think in this one, Borges is LARPing as the oppressor, so his correct pronouns are he, him, and his.
Well, yeah, he's abdicating his panel, his floor, to the two young women that are on with him, whose names...
and he's indicating that he considers himself to be of the oppressive role, and we all know that the oppressive role means that you're male.
Yeah,
I think we can safely assume that his pronouns are indeed male.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Let's
yeah.
And I want to add for the viewers at home that we have actually taken out the select bits. You can probably take a look for yourself. I don't really advise it, but the first, I think, 5 to 10 minutes of this podcast was just mouth noises.
Yeah, I skipped past into 2 minutes in when they actually start discussing it. Up until then, it's all yes, queen, and stuff like that. So, look, just when you hear how they sound, you'll get a sense as to the entire show. So I hope you have your headphones set for vocal fry and uptalk, and let's get into the first bit. I picked out a lot because this is more hilarious than it is rage-inducing, although there are some ragey parts. So let's just get into when they introduce the topic.
Brooke, would you like to continue your answer? Do you think there's a war on feminism?
Yes, 5,001%.
Leah, would you agree?
1,000,000%. I would agree with my colleague.
It's not 1,000,000%. It's not. It's a billion. It's a quadrillion percent. It's a
gorillion.
Gorillion percent.
Yeah, 6 gorillion percent.
6 gorillion.
Oh my god. my
Oh,
colleague. Can we get through this? I don't know. This is gonna be tough.
I know.
Oh, this is
And
gonna be tough.
you know they're absolutely right when they say something like it's a 1,000,000%.
Mm-hmm.
Did they say 1,000,000% or 1,000%?
No, 1,000,000%. I
1,000,000%.
think. I think so.
Guys,
Yeah,
I think
that's a
it's
lot
time to
of
pack up.
percents.
It's time to pack up Honey Badger Radio. We have been delivered the death blow,
Mm-hmm.
logically.
How
We
are
can't
MRAs
come
still
back
a
from
thing
that.
after that? I mean, 1,000,000%.
Yeah, exactly. 1,000,000%. There's 1,000,000% war on feminism. And what's wrong with a war on feminism? Seriously,
Well,
there is no scientific basis for it.
No. These people have lots of arguments. Lots of arguments. They are full of latte, and they have lots to say. Specifically, soy latte.
Oh my goodness.
Let us continue. Let's hear the
Yeah,
arguments.
even women are consuming too much soy here.
Yeah. Oh my god.
We're here.
What do you think like the biggest like arguments against feminism are? What was that?
Well, obviously,
Leah's giving emotions to like speed up. She's like, let's go.
That was like
Leah, stop.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
This is not gonna get him to speed up. See, now we have to stop.
Okay, Brooke, go ahead then.
I'm just pausing.
Oh.
This is what they sound like. Yes. I don't know how popular this podcast is, but it's too popular. I don't know. So
It exists.
yeah,
It
I
exists.
don't know.
Somehow this became something acceptable to put on iTunes. Well, you know, like maybe it's like have you ever listened to the Trailer Park Boys? And
Yeah.
it's mostly just cringe and listening to people blather on. So
Yeah,
maybe this
but-
could be
but
like a
that's-
new genre. But
Yeah, but that's scripted cringe, and like everyone knows how bad it is. This is an unintentional cringe. Like they don't think it's cringe. Like their friends are like, I heard your podcast the other day in spin class, and you make so many great points.
And
That's another thing, by the way.
1,000,000% great.
When I was
points.
trying to like put in the time codes for the specific things that I wanted to respond to, I had a really hard time finding where to pause it because there was the uptalk made it sound like a sentence was actually ending in a comma and that there was more, but it didn't end there. It just kept going. So I was like, okay, so is the sentence over? Because I hear there's, the uptalk at the end, but it sounded like there was going to be more. And sometimes there was, but sometimes there wasn't. It was really, all I'm saying, it was hard for me to do this. This is a lot of work, guys. Send us super chats because like, I don't know if my brain is going to recover. All right. We're going to jump ahead a bit. I'm thinking you
provide
guys,
super chats
because
to
they
pay
make,
Brian for his emotional.
my emotional labor. I gotta jump ahead a bit because we gotta get to this bit where their biggest piece of wisdom comes from a stand-up comedian they heard one time. And this sums up everything. So thank God for comedians. I put in quotes.
So I think a lot of it has to do with, and this is actually a thought that was sparked by a comedian. I was recently watching a male comedian, and it was like, us white men, we had a good run, the longest in history, and now it fucking sucks to be a white heterosexual male because, look at the Me Too movements and stuff. A lot of the things that not even necessarily white men were going about their lives doing, and that sense of entitlement that a lot of them had, a lot of that's being uprooted, right? So the reason there is so much backlash with feminism is because it uproots so many gross, disrespectful and inappropriate behaviors of other groups, which is why there's a direct war on feminism to keep women in the place they are, which is inferior or a minority.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, what?
Yeah. Let's hear the last. I got like 15 more seconds on this.
But no, I have to say it. Like
Okay,
a minority
okay.
keeping women in the place as a minority.
Yes, keeping women in the inferior minority position, despite the fact that there are more women than men.
Does she realize that minority refers to a numerical concept, not a?
I don't know. Wait,
to-
do I have any boxes to check yet? By the way, let's take a look here.
Yeah, let's look at this.
Oppression, 1 in 4, false rape, trigger warnings, Body positive consent. Not yet. Not yet. We're getting to it though. We're getting to
We
it.
don't. Was there anything on male privilege? Because that would definitely be
Male privilege is gonna. I'm pretty sure it comes up, but it's not. They haven't specifically said it yet. I think that's what we're building to in a way.
Finish
So
your 15 seconds. I
yeah.
definitely
Let me
have
just
some
play
other
the rest
things.
of this bit.
That's why, to me, there's such a war on feminism because it uproots other ways of living.
It's
right.
It's literally like bringing up such a level of uncomfortability with
Uncomfortability.
everyone, like all these other
And forcing
groups.
people to change their ways.
Change their ways, change their thought process. Absolutely.
Change their thought process. So it's funny because I wanted to play this clip because when they say feminism uproots things, they're right. It ruins everything. It pulls perfectly healthy plants right out of the ground because those plants aren't growing in the way that they want. It's like they say, well, this should have been a fucking tulip and it came out a goddamn daisy. And I'm going to pull it out of the ground because it didn't grow as a tulip this time. And it is definitely about interfering in people's personal shit to basically, because it doesn't come out the way that they think that it should, interestingly enough. Catherine Scully, by the way, gave us $5 and says for your emotional labor, and then gives us another $4.68 Canadian and says also for your emotional labor. So thank you, Catherine Scully. I think my tooth started hurting again today, but only once I started going through these time codes. So I think that there might be a relationship. I'm just saying. Can't prove it with science, but there might be a relationship. So
okay, so individual who thinks that the only empire throughout all of human history has been white and male. I'd like to introduce you to the Chinese. You think that that white men have had the longest run in human history? I would beg to differ. I would say that the Chinese have had the longest empire in human history. I think it's like spans a couple millennia, if not more.
Yeah, but they don't count because they only talk about Western civilization when they criticize empires. So that's why the Persians don't count and the Chinese don't count and the Huns don't count and Genghis Khan didn't count and like the Mongols or whatever, or the Aztecs or the Zulu. The Egyptians or the Mesopotamians. The Zulu. None of that counts. Just the Western colonialists of the English Empire, the Roman Empire. The Romans are white enough. We'll throw them in there.
Why do white men have to be responsible for the fact that this woman only seems to care about white people?
Because she learned about these systems in college, and that comes up actually. It was a professor that taught her, and that's what they choose to teach.
This is desperately bad.
It is. It's awful. It's so bad.
It's the idea that this stuff that these people are learning is being sanctioned at an academic institution is desperately bad. We are coming to peak cultural corruption and destruction here, guys. This is it's mind-numbingly bad that this is what she was taught in university. These concepts are unscientific. They have no grounding in science. The patriarchy of feminist imagining never been proven. And in fact, most feminists, I've never encountered a feminist who understands that you need to have attempted to falsify a concept before you can consider it, and fail to falsify a concept before you can consider it a theory. So it's not patriarchy theory, it's patriarchy conjecture. And at this point, there's so much evidence against it, it's better termed patriarchy falsehood.
Yeah.
There is no evidence that there exists a society in which people preferentially benefit men over women. That is, that they provide and protect for men over women. There is no society where men do not occupy the most dangerous roles in society and are subject to the greatest rate of violent death. There is no society where men are not more likely to starve during famine because women are more likely to get food. So there is no society on earth that provides and protects for men more than it does women. And their entire basis of their belief system is on this idea that there exists some kind of society who does that. And there is none. And very much not our own. Our own has gone to considerable lengths to locate any possible place where any kind of unfair benefit, even if it isn't actually an unfair benefit, if any kind of benefit to men has to be dispersed with. Even if the benefit is can we allow them to get their jobs done because they keep society running, that has to be dispensed with, not dispersed with, dispensed with. So we have entire government institutions, government organizations, charity organizations devoted to nothing more than attempting to locate places where men are unfairly benefited by society and bring attention to them and bring the rule of law down against them. This is ridiculous at this point that they would even that this is, to be frank, a system justifying itself. Patriarchy is a system absolutely and utterly orientated towards benefiting women that is justifying by itself by somehow saying sin is everywhere. We everywhere people want to benefit men over women. It's just itself justifying. It's a hypocrisy and a lie justifying our unending and unequal focus on the issues of women.
It's faith-based too. It's good that you mentioned patriarchy because that's on our bingo card, which is what's brought up by this guy. So we're going to go ahead and check off patriarchy. I should have known that would be the first one on the list to get
patriarchy.
Patriarchy, fuckface. Yes, exactly. So let's move on to the next bit. This is another problem that needs immediate attention.
Right? So I think a lot of the war on feminism comes from that. And then it also comes from the media, right? Like, look at all these articles that were so fucking popular around Christmas time about baby, it's cold outside, or having genderless snow men, snow people, right?
Or Santa Claus.
So the media loves
ginger people. Like, you can't be a
the
ginger
media,
man.
yeah.
Like, seriously.
The media loves to glorify these minuscule things and pretend this is what feminists care about, right? Because then it makes us...
So she's basically trying to... No, they absolutely do care about that. But she's trying to create some distance between her brand, which is the real reasonable one, lol, and the crazy feminists that want to complain about baby, it's cold outside. Or, you know, gender, I guess, gender fluid snow people or whatever. So, but listen to what she says. She gives up. These girls are so dumb that they actually expose themselves quite a lot in discussing what they believe are the important issues. So we'll get to it.
Look fucking crazy.
College
Even
educated too.
What was that?
They are college educated.
Yes, they are college educated. Gender studies, probably, but not that it's necessary. You can just go to college for anything, and you're going to get a lot of feminist education regardless.
Like,
Yeah.
There,
it takes-
like the amount
it's
of people
extremists,
who
yes.
cared
It's
about
extremist.
Santa Claus not being called Santa Claus is like zero.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
It was someone who wrote an article to get lots of clicks, and it was clickbait.
Exactly.
And to push
And
an
it
agenda
literally-
of
It's the
hate.
same thing.
It
It's
does,
like
but it
literally
literally makes
ask-
us look like those are the most
dumb.
important things that we're really
Yeah.
we're really just gonna check that off the list of things
Literally. I just had to say that.
that we've won this year.
Like,
it's
literally
you're not
ask
gonna,
any
You're not gonna
feminist.
call it a snowman.
I
Like,
don't
it's
give-
delightful. I feel so great to be a woman.
Like,
You know,
I-
like that's what's making it seem almost like a joke.
Like,
Right.
I literally don't
Right.
care about any of that. What I do
No,
care
what I do care
about
about-
is if I have a daughter,
Thank you.
I want her to grow up in a fucking world where she can walk down the street and not
And
be
whatever the
catcalled.
fuck she wants
by
and not
gross
feel
men.
violated.
Like, I'm
Not be caught. She said, I want a daughter that can walk down the street and not be catcalled by gross men. That is important because she is showing us that she's okay with being catcalled as long as the men aren't gross. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to make that
Or-
distinction.
Or all men are gross. In
Or,
which case,
all
I'm
men are
not-
gross, but let's go with that's harassment, I believe. So, or is it objectification? I'll go with harassment this time. So we got another check in the box. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying that there's two possible interpretations of what she said. Either all men are gross, or only gross men should be prevented from talking to women, without an understanding that what constitutes gross for you may be different than what constitutes gross for another woman. And the other thing is, would you accept a law that said that fat women couldn't approach men in public? No, you wouldn't. This individual would not, because that would be considered to be part of the beauty ideal, beauty standard, and it's unacceptable for men to rate women based on their looks and determine their rights based on that. So, yeah, this is you would consider that to be lookism. So the fact that you don't want men who are unattractive to you to speak to you in public is lookism. And if you were a man and we were feminists commenting on you, we would be able to shame what you are saying there, lady. We would be able to say that you don't have the right to not allow fat women to come up and talk to you, because that is misogyny, it's sexism, it's lookism, it's any kind of word you want to use for being a sinner and being socially unacceptable. So isn't it interesting? We live in a world where you can without any sense of self-awareness, assert this idea that men should be judged by your personal aesthetic standards, and their actual rights should be based on your judgment of their aesthetic and whether or not they live up to your aesthetic standard, at the same time as you would condemn and socially ostracize men for even having an aesthetic standard that they expect women to live up to. Isn't that fascinating? You get to determine men's rights based on whether or not they're attractive to you, and men get condemned for even saying whether or not women are attractive to them, even having women that they find unattractive or women that they find attractive. They have to be condemned for it. I'm just, my mind is just sort of shriveling into a raisin at the moment, but I'm done.
Okay. Mighty Balzac gives us $5 Australian and says, if you can't be tall, dark, and handsome, at least have the common decency to be wealthy. Yeah, I mean, like, what's wrong? Do you hate women? John Sislowski gives us $2 Australian and says, imagine being taught this and believing it. Happens all the time, apparently. It's when it's convenient, I think people adopt these beliefs too, because it's like, oh, this explains my life and why it sucks. It's everybody else's fault. It's patriarchy's fault. Well, I guess I don't have to do anything to improve myself. Okay, so let's go on to the next clip.
Yeah, too, right?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
said, like
It comes back to
obviously
that so
feminists doing good jobs and making change is not going to get nearly as much runtime as a feminist fucking freaking out about a snowman
Yeah.
being called a
Right.
snow person. That's
true.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's going to get more airtime than,
But isn't
women
that
getting
sad
together.
That that's
yeah.
like what we're now taking
Yeah.
as a W.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, more people were upset about that than the fact that Donald Trump said to grab her by the pussy.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just, I'm appalled.
Yeah.
No, that's it. People stop talking about snow people like that weekend. People still talk about grab her by the pussy. I should have put Trump on this bingo card, by the way. I feel like I should actually. But let's
I think you should have. Yeah.
I should have. I should have known. Orange Man Bad should have been on this card. But what I'll
and I also
do,
want to talk to these people.
I'll
about
put
medium-
objectification. I'll check that, and we'll say that that's what just happened. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I want to talk to these people about media misrepresentation. The media is actually reporting on things that feminists are doing. You may think that it's a distortion, although I'm pretty sure that the baby it's cold outside issue was brought up as part of rape culture. And there was I know that there were stations that stopped playing it because of it. So there was some significant social pressure put on to recognize Baby It's Cold Outside as evidence of the normalization of rape. And this is entirely consistent with what feminist organizations state they want to do and how they want to change society. So I'm not exactly sure if it's really legitimate to complain about media saying, hey, this song is being removed from the airways because feminists are complaining about it promoting rape culture. I think that is entirely consistent with what feminists do and not a misrepresentation of them at all. But here's the thing. The media is actually reporting on things that feminists are actually they are actually calling out baby it's cold outside as rape culture, and they are actually concerned about popular representations of gender and refusing or not failing to include non-binary individuals. This is stuff that feminism does, and the media is actually pointing to stuff that you guys are actually doing. You may not be pointing to the stuff you want it to point to, but you as a group, as feminists, as self-identified feminists, are actually doing it. Now, what does the media do to us men's rights activists?
Lie.
It points to people who have never identified as a men's rights activist and have never even followed any of our channels or interacted with us at all. It points to them and says they are men's rights activists based on no actual affiliation or self-identification as a men's rights activist, but simply because they did something bad and they said something that could be possibly construed as similar to something that we've said. And that's it. They become a men's rights activist. And we can't say any. And then the other thing is, I mean, look at the most recent example, the Guardian smear of Janice Fiamengo. I was listening to her respond to her as she's either a men's rights activist or a men's issues enthusiast. She's going to be talking at the International Conference on Men's Issues in August this year in Chicago. And she was smeared by the Guardian as a white supremacist based on tweets that nobody knows. There's no indication that she actually made tweets that would have qualified her as a white supremacist. So there's no evidence. Guardian doesn't link to anything. She's looking at this allegation that she is a white supremacist, and she has no clue what it's based on. And I would be inclined to agree that I have never seen her ever say anything remotely that could be considered white supremacist. So essentially, the Guardian essentially said something that she did something that she probably never did. So count your lucky stars, my little lovelies, that the media actually points to things that feminists do when it talks about what feminists do.
Yeah.
Because if you were part of an actually marginalized group of people who think things that are actually challenging to the status quo, the media wouldn't be so generous to you.
Okay, let us move on to the next clip.
How interesting. I was just going to say, it literally is that level, like I said, of uncomfortability. And it's like how interesting that someone who is a comedian and is paid to be funny is saying what an uncomfortable time to be a man. Well, fucking good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
and he
about
was saying
fucking time.
And he was
Yeah.
saying
if you're uncomfortable, it's probably for a reason.
And he was
It's like
exactly.
It's like we have many reasons to be uncomfortable as women too, and it's not because of a fucking snowman.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it really is. If it's an uncomfortable time to be a man, darn for you.
And
make a fucking change.
And he
They love it. They love it. They want men to feel as uncomfortable as they are. That's hilarious. I just had to play that because they're taking some pleasure in their rage, and I just wanted to show that. That's not. I don't know that there's much to say to it, but I thought I would share. So you can see.
Well, there is plenty to say to it.
Okay.
Where to start? So they're taking they're really mean. Like, that's just mean, ladies. You're just really mean. That's what I have to say. You're mean, girls. Just mean, like the Grinch. Just taking pleasure in the suffering of others. You know, not taking pleasure in raising women up, but taking pleasure in tearing men down. And then justifying it by this unscientific supposition about history that has never been proven and has been often disproven. Geez. What would happen if we found out that it was, or if general society finally woke up to the fact that patriarchy conjecture, falsehood, is false? And the entire construct, the entire framework in which these girls that exist, that gives them moral authority, not just moral authority to dictate how men should think and act, but also the moral authority to take delight in the suffering of men. What if that was found to be completely and utterly false? Of course, it is completely and utterly false, but what if that was popularly understood to be completely and utterly false? Everybody would be telling these girls that they're just mean. They're just mean people, and they have no alibi. They're just mean. And
Yeah.
the fact is that that's what this is all about. These individuals are using a system of thought to exert dominance over men and over women who question them, and to be able to enact their mean and petty revenge against those people. And it's as simple. When I was listening to these women and the men, I'm like, or the young men, I was thinking, these are the type of people that I avoided in high school because they were bullies. I mean, at the time I went to high school, the bullies didn't justify themselves with patriarchy theory and male privilege and toxic masculinity. They justified themselves because everybody who wasn't popular like them was beneath them. They were just a nerd or a slut or whatever else, a bitch. Yep. But these now we have an entire academic belief system to justify the bullies. Congratulations, Western society. We have really come far. Come a long ways, baby. All right.
Let's see. Did I jump ahead to the next bit? Yes. Here we go.
What an interesting thing for him to.
And guess what? If you're a white heterosexual male who's fucking doing a great job and respecting women, good job.
I'm happy for you.
Guess what?
Boo.
You should be comfortable. You shouldn't have to worry.
Don't be scared by that.
Your life stays the same.
Yeah, those are the men.
Your life stays the same.
Those are the men. If you're fucking doing you and having a great, having a great life and being respectful, like you said, what a great time to be you.
Well, I think those are the men that
you don't need to worry.
Have been those allies that have helped push the movement along.
You don't have to worry.
Absolutely. We are two people that will definitely be the first to say to any man, like, you come along with us and like feel the same way. It's like, it's great.
Yeah.
Be an ally is what she's saying. If you're a successful heterosexual, wait, let me see. We have a cis, and I think there was a heterosexual white male. I don't see anything on the list here for that. We'll just leave it at that. But, and you're like, you're doing well, then congratulations, join us, boo. But I think it means you have to be an ally, and we're going to get into why that is in just a moment. Here, let's play the next bit. This is the twist.
Like, I do not hate anyone if that's going to be like, just because you're a white privileged male and you have a great job, you have your own place and you're doing you, that's amazing. I'm happy for you. If you also are a respectful person and can see other people's point of view and that you're not the best thing that fucking was ever on this earth, and you can see like equality is more important than anything and at least see someone else's side, I'm all for you.
Acknowledge your privilege, which is basically what that is. So we got privilege. Yeah, wow, we only got like 2 boxes. Almost got bingo here. All we need is gender roles and oppression. I think we're gonna get bingo right off the bat.
Yeah, when we get bingo, we're going into the after show. I'm already feeling the rising tremor of a frickin' migraine. So you don't have anything to worry about as long as you do exactly what I say. That certainly bodes well. That's not authoritarian at all. You just believe as I believe and do what I say, and be aware of my perspective, but don't bring up your perspective, because that's illegitimate to talk about as a man. As a cis man, you don't have a perspective. You just have oppression coming out of your mouth whenever you talk about your feelings. And that's the other thing. Like, if there's a problem that a man is having, then they attribute it to him losing privilege. So in no way can men ever talk about anything really. The only thing that they can say, and this is apparently discussing this with feminist men, the only legitimate feelings that men can have are the feeling of joy as sin leaves their body. That's the only thing they can really express, is as the masculinity leaves their body, as the belief that they have a right to their own perspective leaves their body and is replaced by the holy sense of servitude to the woman. And I'm like, wow, okay, so there's no actual there for men. And if there is, it should go away. All right.
Here comes one of my favorite parts. There's a couple of really good ones we have to do on the live show. I think we might get there. There's just one that's just fucking solid gold. But this is a good one. This is one that you know every basic bitch coffee house feminist brings up. All right, so here we go.
And any person I've ever faced who has an issue with feminism or thinks feminism is a dirty word, I say to them, "I'm sorry, but do you?"
All right. Do you know what she's gonna say? Do you know what she's gonna say? Can you guess? Can you guess what her?
I can guess.
Can you guys guess? Can you guess what she's gonna say? I'm gonna go back just a teeny bit. What do you do when people say, "I just don't like feminism"? How do you respond? What is she gonna say?
What is the answer? Send us a super chat.
I'm sorry, but do you know what feminism means?
Oh wait, I gotta go back a little bit.
With feminism or thinks feminism is a dirty word, I say to them, "I'm sorry, but do you know what feminism means?" And almost, I would say, actually no, 100% of the time I've ever asked that question, they can't tell me what feminism is. They literally cannot define it.
A lot of people even can't.
A lot of people can't. And do you know what feminism means? It means literally you want equal rights for all. Literally, men, women, people of color. That's literally what feminism is. It's not wanting women to be better than men.
That's never what it's been about.
My dictionary definition. It's not on here either. That should go on there. I'll definitely add that. And next time I do a bingo card, I gotta put Orange Man Bad and dictionary definition of feminism. Those things have to go on there. Yeah, there it is. It's like look it up. Look it up, and that's the answer. It can't be anything but that. How do you respond to that? And how is it she says no one's been able to answer this question of what feminism is? It's a female supremacy movement that exists specifically to put women in positions of power and tear down men. Period. That's it. Right. I mean, you can go into all the, all the other stuff about it, socialism and panties, the Marxist stuff, whatever. But if you want to make it simple, it's just essentially doubling down on the way things have been by having men serve women all throughout history, but now you do it without any of the rewards. Like, men don't get any of the honor. They're simply expected to do it to make up for all the evil they've done, as opposed to simply being asked to do it in exchange for, getting honored.
Okay. All right. I'm just sharpening my scythe here.
Okay.
My metaphorical scythe. The dictionary definition of feminism. Do you have an exit plan, my dear? What an exit plan is when you have achieved equality, and how do you determine that you have achieved equality? If feminism does not have an exit plan, then it will never know when it shoots past equality into supremacy. And I would be, as an outside observer, I would suggest that the place where feminism shot past equality to supremacy was with the vote. And people often they get really upset at this argument, but there is no logical refutation of it. When you give one group of people the vote, but not the responsibilities of citizenship, and you give a second group of people the vote, but they do have the responsibilities of citizenship, the first group of people are higher class citizens than the second group of people. And pursuing that, thus, is supremacy. So in giving women the right to vote, feminism created its first act of female supremacy. And I would also point to the fact, and this is something that this young woman probably does not know about feminism, that Charles Fourier coined it in, I think, 1870s to mean, quite literally, judging society by how well it benefits women. not how well it benefits everyone, but just how well it benefits women. That is, by definition, female supremacy. Because when you create a society that exists only to benefit one group, you are creating a supreme position for that group. So feminism was founded on the concept of only benefiting women, female supremacy. Its first major act, aside from the Tender Years Doctrine, which took children away from their fathers, was the vote, which was an act of female supremacy. And they have really gone off to the races since then. So if they're going to say that feminism is about equality, hold them to the task. Have you measured the side for men? You cannot create equality without measuring both sides. And feminists never measure the side for men. Or if they do, they never explain how they are weighting all of the various things that women face and all of the various things that men face to always somehow come out with women having it worse. And they'll never reveal that secret formula that they have. Of course, there is no freaking formula. It's just the automatic assumption that women always have it worse. Full stop. No need to look at it. No need to explain it. No need to justify it. It just is. And that is my opinion on that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's continue.
Because feminism is also recognizing that there's men's issues that go unnoticed, like eating disorder.
Oh, let's. What do you think the men's issue is? What do you think it is? I know what it is. I know what it is.
Or the pressure men face with having perfect bodies, or showing no emotions and stuff like that, and not
Toxic
being able
toxic
masculinity,
and like,
all these things.
It's about really like breaking what we.
Did you not put toxic masculinity on your bingo
Toxic
card?
masculinity is on my bingo card, my dude. Boom.
Check it off.
Toxic masculinity. You know, you gotta have it. And there was something else. Oh, right. It's about getting people out of their gender roles. So gender roles has been checked. Okay. So we're close. We're close. You know it.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity. That is a winner. All right. So
are we gonna get bingo in the next segment?
I have a feeling. Okay. So next, let's see. Next clip. We're gonna keep going. It's just there's no point in responding to this shit because you know what they're saying. Like it's been heard a million times. I do have a couple super chats though. I should probably not ignore. Miles Kinslow gives us $10. Thank you, Miles, and says, "Hey Brian, I recently saw a DePaul University in the news who might be a good fit in the conference. Professor Jason Hill of philosophy. He wrote a piece defending Israel, which caused some controversy." Okay. Thank you, Miles. Lauren literally gives us $1.99 and says, "My dictionary." Of course, and eval79 gives us $9.99 and says, "While we have Alison, would you guys please explain how the gender wage gap is evidence women only need to spend 70 cents for a man's dollar? I tried explaining this to a friend, but I failed." You saying like they only like earn 70 cents or 77 cents? Is that what you're asking?
You want me to do it since he's asking me?
Well, he did. Yeah, he asked you.
All right, so women spend approximately $1.25 for every dollar men spend. Now, this is based on market research and also consumer categories. If you go to a mall, just count up the retail space devoted to women versus the retail space devoted to men. So women are the largest consumer. There's no question that they are the largest. In fact, American women are the largest market on the planet. So we have the largest consumer group in America being American women. And then they say that they only earn how much per dollar? And yet, at the very least, they're able to have equal spending power, if not more. They actually do have more spending than men.
Yeah.
So you have a situation where they're earning less, but they're able to spend more. That means that they only have to earn 77 cents to be able to spend a full dollar, and it's more like a $1.25 compared to men. So that's where the argument comes from. Please do tell me if that explains it, if that is sufficient. But that is actually the argument that I developed 10 years ago. I think it was on Stand the Ground. It just occurred to me. It's just, okay, so women are the largest consumer. American women are the largest consumer demographic on the planet. So they control the largest amount of consumer spending. And this isn't just household spending. This is also non-essential spending as well. They control all of that, and yet they don't have to earn as much as men in order to become the largest spending category on the planet. What does that actually say about their oppression? And please do also explain how where you sort of you felt like you fell down in trying to explain it to your friend. But it is really simple. One, American women are the largest consumer group on the planet. American women control more spending than American men. Two, American women don't earn as much. So they don't have to earn as much to control more spending.
Yeah, and that's just what women control. That doesn't count what men spend on behalf of women. So the woman says, indeed, buy me something, and a man does, then that's not actually factored in because only men are the ones spending the money. So women don't just spend more when they spend money, but men spend money on behalf of women as well. And so that also has to be added into that. Okay, next, let's go on to the next clip.
There are women who will say they are not feminists, and I have a real fucking bone to pick with that. That shit really pisses me off because literally how entrenched are you into a patriarchal society that you can't recognize your own fucking oppression? Kaylee?
Oh, oppression! We got bingo! Boop, boop!
Bingo! Oh my God, we got bingo and the trashing of women.
Yes, let me play the rest of the clip, but let's because there's a bit more to it.
Go, however the fuck you say her name, but Penny from The Big Bang Theory is one of those who have publicly come out and said, I am not a feminist. I like being a mother. I like being a homemaker.
Great.
I mean, good for you. That doesn't mean you're not a feminist. Yeah. Like, what? I'm sorry. If you have a pussy, you need to be a feminist. Yeah. If you're not, fuck you. And you are someone I will never understand.
And also,
if you're not, then fuck you. Wow. So ladies, if you're watching, if you have a pussy, you better be a feminist. Period. So I guess Alison doesn't have a pussy then. I know you don't want to talk about that. It's fine. But
no, it's not.
You have an. You know what? You have an honorary. You have an honorary penis since you are an MRA. So you hold the scepter of power.
I hold the scepter
which is a dick.
Of power.
Yes.
Oh God.
the cis-normative transphobia on display by this woman is appalling. Don't you realize that not all women have vaginas? Oh my God.
That's a good point, Brian. That's a good point.
Oh my God.
Was this supposed to be woke the fuck up, or is it
sounds like a TERF to me? Yeah, right.
It sounds like trans exclusionary radical feminism to me. Oh man. Oh goodness. Like the presumption that I have to advocate for your particular way of viewing women, or I somehow am some kind of victim of society, is unbelievable. Like, no, I don't agree that women can be reduced down to victims of society. Period. I think it's absurd. It's ridiculous. And not just that, the entire construct that you use to reduce women down to victims of society is unfounded. It has no logical, rational, or scientific merit. And you embrace it. You essentially embrace, this woman is essentially embracing putting the harem shackles on her own freaking leg. And what I mean by that is she is embracing, learning, and becoming the victim. What are you going to do? Like, this is a concept that is so, people seem to stumble at. But you can't constantly reduce yourself down to how you're acted upon. Like, imagine that. Just sit there and reduce yourself down to how you're acted upon by your environment. You can't even get up. You do it too much, you stop being able to breathe. You completely and utterly turn yourself into an incapable invalid, a mental cripple. And she's saying, well, if you don't do this, then you're not going to be empowered. If you don't constantly reduce yourself down to victimhood and inability, you won't be empowered. I'm like, no, thank you. I don't even have to reject this on behalf of men, which I do. I do reject this on behalf of men. I reject this on behalf of women. I mean, this thinking hurts women. This woman is hurting herself. I mean, I can't even get that mad at her because I'm like watching this. I'm like, could you stop? Please stop hitting yourself in the face. And it's not good. It works a little bit while you're young and cute, but as soon as you start getting ugly and being unattractive, those feminist white knights, even the feminist white knights, are going to stop carrying you around and carrying your issues. These men are not going to continue to service your bullshit all of your life. So start developing your own legs before you get dumped on your face. And of course, she's going to look at all that and say, oh my God, it's misogyny to say that men aren't going to carry my ass my whole life. They're not. I mean, if you're lucky, you'll get one guy who will make a life with you, but you're not going to get, in order to even get that, you have to be able to take responsibility for yourself. You can't be in a relationship if you're incapable of taking responsibility for yourself and your own emotions and saying, I have to deal with my shit. Because you will either he's going to walk away if he wakes up, or you are going to just implode a perfectly fine, healthy relationship. And I have rarely seen, I've maybe seen one divorced woman ever walk away from her marriage to something better. Usually she's walking downhill. Usually she's walking off a cliff when she leaves her first marriage. And it's only gets worse from there. So I would advise this young woman that she get off the victimhood drug and start developing her individuality and her inner sense as an individual moral actor. Whatever it takes.
It's going to take the wall. I don't know. She might be too far gone. These people, they're like normies and basic bitches, but they are pretty ideologically possessed. So let's play that. We're getting close to the end, but I do have a couple of really great clips. And
that's why. So while I will say this, I will never date or be with a man who does not understand feminism. I will never be friends with a woman or respect a woman that doesn't understand feminism.
But do you think it comes down to like a lack of awareness or just absolute ignorance?
I think it's
both.
It's both. Yeah, I agree.
It's both.
It is both. Because, it's like...
And being unable to recognize her own oppression.
Yeah,
yes.
or like...
It's like,
exactly.
It's like unable to recognize your own oppression. Too bad I already checked oppression.
We already got bingo.
We already got bingo, but we can always fill up more boxes. Okay, so women they just don't know that they're oppressed. But let's get to this is the juicy bit. 20 minutes in. I'm gonna skip ahead a bit. This is good right here.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And then like, look, that person can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like that's not the reality.
They've done it. That means that there is no barrier.
Exactly.
That's what they think.
Yeah.
It's this idea that we're post-feminists.
Yes. Which is another conversation.
Another whole conversation.
What would you say?
No exit
I've also heard the
plan.
argument as well. When I bring up white privilege or white male privilege, that's also not real because there are white homeless males or white males who don't make a lot of money.
Okay, so he says, just because it kind of cut out a little bit, he says, I want you to tell me what I should say when I bring up things like white privilege or white male privilege, when they say, but there are white men who are homeless. I mean, there are homeless men. They make up the majority of the homeless are men. Okay, so let's see what their retort is for that.
I would say...
What would you say to that argument?
So what I would say
for lack
to
of a
that,
better word.
For lack of a better word.
Yeah, because apparently that's not really an argument. I'm calling it an argument, but I think it's really lame that you can even bring up the fact that there are white guys that are homeless.
Sure.
And this was described to me very well by a professor I had. And
See? Professor from college.
also, he got it from a comedian. But
The professor that got this from a comedian. The modern philosophical sages of our time, apparently. This is where the wisdom comes from. Comedians do a bit. A professor hears it on his cable TV and his Netflix at home and says, ooh, I'm going to bring that to my students. Wow, my job is easy.
basically, white people.
Lots of comedians are
There's
giving
a lot of comedians are
really great.
You know what? A lot of comedians touch on some really serious
They
topics,
do.
Yes, they
which
do.
is shedding light on it in a really interesting way to
Get
me.
to the
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
So true.
But this was first year in a lecture, and it's stuck with me, and it's the best way to describe white privilege to someone who says, "Oh, but there's white homeless men."
Some men don't have good jobs.
Exactly.
They're white.
So, white men specifically, but white people in general, come with an invisible backpack of things that put them forth in life. Things that they take for granted that so many other people don't. Like if you have an issue at a restaurant or a store, you can go up and complain, and most likely that manager will be white. You can go buy Band-Aids that match your fucking skin color if you're white. Can black people do that?
Wait, okay. Let's go back, okay? White homeless men are carrying around an invisible backpack that lets them complain to restaurant managers when they get their order wrong, because white homeless men are in restaurants and can actually talk to managers and get their shit dealt with. Also, white homeless men might be suffering from mental illness. They might be struggling to find something to eat, to put on some clean clothes, a decent pair of shoes. They might take their dog from them, and because I've seen videos of that, they might get beat up by random drug addicts. They themselves might be addicted to drugs. However, after they've injected themselves with heroin that they've managed, or crack that they've managed to get their hands on, all the little scrapes and bruises, on the plus side, if they go to a drugstore, they can get some Band-Aids and it matches their skin. That is white privilege, everybody. White privilege.
Is this the entirety of what they said? White
No,
privilege is?
they keep going, but they completely lose the plot. Homeless guy, but he's privileged because his Band-Aids match his skin color. Because he's a man and people are more likely to see him as authoritative when he says something. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay. Like I don't want. I want to hear the rest of this before I get into
this
it.
Just gets really. This is the holy shit moment of the whole video. I'll play the rest. Okay, here we go.
We'll walk into Walmart or Shoppers Drug Mart and find Band-Aids that match their skin color? No. Can black people or most people of other ethnicities walk into any barber shop or hair salon and assume that everyone there will know how cut their hair?
And think about how it was. You want to
That's insane too, by the way. I just got to point this out. Anybody like Indian people and Hispanic people and Middle Eastern people can go into any barber shop and get a haircut. I get that black people have different hair. I get that.
I'm just trying trying to get all of this down.
All right. It's all it's gonna be.
These are the items that I have.
Yes.
Talking to restaurant manager.
Yeah. Band-Aids that match their skin color and barbershops. Homeless white men. Just keep that in mind. This is the retort that they say you should use.
About social media. How many people and how many brands this past year have been called out on not having a wide range enough for every skin color and every undertone?
Right.
This is like a real thing.
Think about like Fenty.
Fenty
Like,
Beauty. They were big. They were literally so big for the fact that she had such a wide profile for every skin color and things. And like Beauty Blender or Tarte Shape Tape has completely segregated an entire group of people.
And it's kind of sad that, like, you know, the breakthrough in beauty by Fenty Beauty and now Morphe with their 60 shades.
Yeah.
What is that? What are they talking about?
Like, that's exceptional.
I'm afraid that's what's so interesting.
I'm afraid my
People are
estrogen
literally
has failed
calling
me.
out how great these brands are. And I'm like, sure, that is lovely. However,
wait. Okay, so wait a second. Can I infer from the fact that I believe that these are makeup brands that they're talking authoritatively about, that these individual women might be a little bit more oppressed by the beauty ideal than myself? Like, I don't even freaking know what the heck you're talking
they
about.
actually go into that later, where they say that, you know, the beauty industry oppresses women because it makes them buy stuff. So, but they happen to know all about it. Like, I don't know any of this shit at all. They know all about it. So,
okay, so what I'm getting at is, so they say the beauty ideal oppresses women. They're the beauty industry. I have no clue what they're talking about with these brands or any of this controversy, because frankly, I don't give a shit about makeup, and I do not follow makeup news. I didn't even know that was a thing. How do they not? And then they lecture me, someone like myself, about being oppressed? Seriously?
yeah.
Okay, all right. But anyway,
Yeah.
so what we have so far is white men can talk to restaurant managers and they will be white.
Yeah. Band-Aids will match their skin color, and makeup shades will
And
probably
haircuts.
match, and they can get haircuts. And I think there's a little bit more. Hold on.
How segregated are we creating ourselves to be that it's like that's the new like amazing, that's the new like best way to be for a brand. It's not like this should not be an exception. It's coming back to the exception versus rule that we've talked about.
All right. They're just talking about makeup. That's the whole clip. I can't take any more of this, but I don't see any bingo cards about makeup or matching Band-Aids or restaurant managers, so
or haircuts.
Or barbershop stuff. But yeah.
So this is the sum total of the explanation of why, when we're talking about men being the majority of the homeless, men being the majority of suicides, men being the majority of workplace deaths, men being the majority of individuals who experience domestic violence and sexual assault who have absolutely no services for either, men being the majority of the prison population, and thus the majority of the individuals being sexually exploited in prison by prison guards, who mostly are female. Men being the majority of combat deaths, men being the majority of parents who lose contact with their children, men being the majority of people who pay alimony, men being the consumer group having less consumer power than women in the US. That's another thing. Men being the minority of people graduating with college degrees. Boys being the most likely to drop out of high school and be medicated and deal with mental health issues and have suicide be an issue that they have to face younger than girls. Now, all of these issues are, of course, negated by this backpack of invisible privilege. It does really seem to be invisible to me, be that as it may. They do describe some of the invisible privilege. Men are more likely to go up to a restaurant manager with a complaint and be talking to another man.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to deal with the white shit, because that's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not even going to go there. That, Brian wants to go there, that's fine. It's not in my wheelhouse. I don't give a fucking fuck about that particular issue. But men can go to a restaurant manager. I mean, really, like, if you read this, it really says a lot more about their lives than it does about men or women or anyone else.
Yeah.
But complaining to a restaurant manager is really important to them, that they complain to a restaurant manager who reflects their skin tone, gender identity, sexual orientation, and preferred air miles point card.
They probably all have I'd like to speak to your manager haircuts that they got at those barbershops that apparently cater only to women like them.
Like bandages. So all of that stuff that I listed that men face more than women is negated by being able to go to talk to a restaurant manager, and it being more likely that the restaurant manager be male, that they have bandages that match their skin color if they're a man. Well, that one doesn't even frickin' work when it happens when you're talking about men. I mean, literally, they were talking about men, how they can explain male privilege, and then they start lumping in white shit with male privilege, which is another thing. Have you noticed?
Yeah, absolutely. They use the race thing because it helps them better strengthen the gender thing, but ultimately they don't care that much. Like, black men are not important to them. They're still the enemy, but they'll use blackness to get black women on board with feminism. And then they'll turn around and say, yeah, and then they'll turn around. They'll use the black women against their own men, and they'll use the suffering of black men to validate their intersectionality. That's why intersectionality is a thing. And then they'll turn on those black men and say black men are the white people of black people, and that women should fear them.
The greater suffering of black men. And they'll say that's because of blackness, and then they'll say, well, black women by definition suffer more than black men
because they're women.
Then you're back with the suffering is really because they're women.
Yep.
And then the white women with their wheelbarrows, and they just gather up all the suffering, which is exactly what these two women are doing. Gather up all their suffering, and they grab onto it and they rub it all over their bodies. And then they're like, look at this. I got all this suffering. I mean, did you see that black man who was shot by the police? Well, I'm a white chick and now I'm suffering just as much as that.
Yeah.
Now I get to go freaking.
I'm pretty sure the guy who runs this podcast is a gay black man. I'm almost positive of that. Yeah. Yeah. Kyle Borges.
Well, that's really
is a gay
fascinating.
Black man. Yeah.
If he's a gay black man, because at several points in this podcast, he defers to the women as being more oppressed than him.
Yep.
And I've listened to part of it, and he does defer to them. So he is actually deferring to the intersectional pipeline that brings. And are the women black? Because they sound very white.
No, I don't think they are, but I didn't look them up. I'm pretty sure they're white. I think one of them might be like Middle Eastern or something, because she has a ethnic, like a Middle Eastern sounding name. But I don't. Yeah, so I think one of them is like
Semitic.
He
defers to both of them, including the white one.
Yeah,
he defers to both of them as having more oppression points than himself, even if he's a black gay man.
Yeah, but he's still a man.
That tells you everything. He's still a man.
Still a man.
Still a man. He's still. And the greatest irony of it all is he is a black gay man, and he still does not want to occupy the role of victim like most men. That is the appropriate the appropriate person to occupy the role of victim is a woman. And then this guy's going to turn around and say, yeah, I challenge gender roles. No, you fucking don't. No, you don't.
He wears an earring, Alison. That's challenging gender roles all by there. Yeah, I know.
Anybody can do shit like that, but can you actually get deep inside your own soul and bring out the guts and say, yeah, that's something I do that I need to change, do self-surgery on yourself and remove it? No, I don't think he can do that. I think the very thought of doing that just terrifies him. All right, so we have all of that shit that I said about what men face, and it's completely negated by the fact that men can talk to restaurant managers, bring complaints to restaurant managers, and they're more likely to be men because everything else is related to whiteness, which incidentally is not synonymous with masculinity.
Yep.
And there we go, guys. That's their answer.
Yeah.
Apparently, she got it from a professor who got it from a comedian. That white men have an invisible knapsack, and in that visible knapsack is a talk to the restaurant manager free card. And that negates everything else I said. Well, pack it up, Brian. That's us done for, eh?
We're done. I don't know why we still have a show. We should just quit now because, I ran into a homeless guy while I was walking the dog today, and I was like, you know what? You could probably go to a restaurant and complain to the manager, and he'd probably look like you. So I'm not going to give you any of my change, sir.
Good day, sir.
All right, so
that privilege in my face.
I got a super chat, and then we should just take off, go to the after show. Let's see. Mighty Balzac gives us $2 Australian and says, could these bitches be more vain and shallow? you know what? They're basic, man. They're just basic as fuck. And I more so pity them than anything, but they do have a lot of anger in them. And I think that it's taught. I mean, I think like, you know, there is an industry where there are professors that watch comedy shows and then get their lessons from that. I know what I'm going to do my fucking presentation on for my students tomorrow. I know what my lecture is going to be on. It's going to be on what this comedian said about invisible fucking backpacks. And that's $80,000 a year, sister, or whatever it costs to go to college. By the way, not that it matters. These women are Canadian. I believe that they're either in BC or Toronto.
All right.
That's where this is based out of. So,
okay, I think this is a symptom, because they're just packing these degrees full of crap and then pushing people through because they just want the sweet, sweet tuition money.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that this individual will be completely unemployable is of no interest to this professor or the place where she goes to school. Well, I mean, she's basically going for a Mrs. degree, but who's counting? All right.
Yeah.
I said my piece. Let's go to the after show.
We're going to go to the after show where they're going to continue to rant about how I'm just going to give you a little bit of a teaser of what they're gonna. I'm not gonna play anything, but they're gonna go into the ways in which the porn and fashion industry continue to condition women and control them. How planning a career is a lot more difficult for women because they have to plan around children, and men apparently don't have to sweat that at all. And that we don't live in a post-feminist world, and also the evil of dating apps. Yes, these women, at least according to the way they're talking, they date men, and there are men that put up with them. I don't know why that is. So go ahead, Alison, you can take us out, and we'll go into the after show if you want to do any shilling.
If you want to join us in the after show, please go to www.feedthebadger.com and choose a monthly option for support. We very much appreciate your support because you are the reason why we are able to do these shows. So if enough of you don't go to feedthebadger.com and support us, we will have to cease operations, and we don't want to do that because that means that we cede the battlefield, the floor, whatever you want to call it, the ultimate fate of human history, possibly the world, the universe, everything, to individuals like these individuals in the podcast and the professor that taught them, which you don't want to do. So go to feedthebadger.com, throw a few shekels in the hat, join us in the after show. Have fun with us as we talk about the additional items that these people brought up.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming on. And be sure to, hit that like button. Also, leave us a comment and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams go live. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. And hopefully, we'll see you in the after show. Have a good one, everybody.